Record on this computer. All right, we're being recorded.
Oh, good. Oh,
Yep, I see it.
I got to do my phone. Oh, shit.
6:59, 1 minute to go.
All right. I'm just shutting my
Stop. Sorry, I was talking to my dog.
shutting my ringer off. Okay.
All right, I see it. I see it.
5 seconds.
Liking it, sharing it.
To run extra light.
Tell me when we're on live because I'm sharing right now.
We're okay because we have the music and the pre-roll.
Okay. Did you share it to Joan's group?
No.
Okay, we got the rock music going. All right. Okay, everything's working good.
All right, I'm starting the
Wow, we're getting
intro video.
Yeah, we're getting viewers already.
Intro video on. Music off.
I hear the ice cream truck.
Yeah, I hear the ice cream truck.
Sounds really good right now.
Yeah. I hate that song. I should make that.
I chased that truck for a mile or two when I was a kid. I'd hear it from so far away. I'd hop on my bike and I'd just go for it.
Okay. Ready, set. And we're live!
Hey, all right.
It's the Mike
everybody
and Bill
doing?
Show. We're stepping on each other's toes here, Bill. Go ahead, Bill.
All right. I'm Bill Hartman, and I am the vice chair for the 12th Congressional District, and I've got a whole zillion hats that I wear. All right.
And I'm Mike Brucey, the left half or right half, depending on where you're sitting and what you're looking at.
Yeah.
The Mike and Bill Show. We have a super special guest today, and that would be...
Hi, I'm Bree Riley, and I'm a rising junior at the University of Michigan, and I had the absolute privilege of interning with Mike actually last summer.
All right.
Cool, which is, we're going to be talking a little bit about that, but what I'd like to do, this is totally off the cuff, zero script. This is unusual. Normally we at least have bullet points or, some kind of script to talk to. But what we're going to do is totally go off the cuff, and we're going to talk about how kids coming out of high school, kids entering college, and kids throughout their college years can prepare themselves for their career. Specifically, how to find internships, the perfect internships that fit them in their career. And I think Bree is the absolute most perfect person that we could find to talk about this.
Thank you so much. It's an honor to be here, like I said. It's looking forward to sharing a bit.
Cool. So surprisingly enough, before we get started, I had a conversation today with someone that we're going to be doing some live streaming with, and their daughter, who's I believe, junior or senior in high school, straight A student, potential valedictorian up in Clarkston, I believe.
Yeah.
I'm going to be teaching and training her how to do live streaming.
Mike, look and see if you've got your chat box open on the side.
Yes, I do. You want me to start it?
Close it. It's showing on the broadcast.
And Bree keeps muted. Are you muting yourself, Bree?
Yes, my dog is barking right now. I don't need him in the background interfering.
Okay.
So I'll unmute as appropriate.
All right. So I was just saying, I just met today a junior. I don't know if she's a junior, upcoming junior or senior up in Clarkston, straight A student, potential valedictorian, rock star student, someone that's interested in live streaming. So we are going to start a training program with her, and she's going to actually be in charge of live streaming production for her father.
Okay.
That's awesome.
Yeah. So I'll be asking questions with her in mind as we go about our discussion. I have a question for you, Bree.
What's up?
It's a small world. Do you happen to know a young man at Grosse Seal at the high school named Tyler Pardo?
The name sounds vaguely familiar. Yeah, it's a small town.
Yeah, Grosse Seal is small.
You remember Tyler Pardo?
Yes, I do. I think we interviewed him, didn't we?
Yes, we did. He is, as I understand it, much like you, a 4.0 student, like never had less than an A in his life kind of guy. And he will be a senior next year. And we interviewed him. The interesting part about Tyler is he and his friends, they started a nonprofit, their own nonprofit and PAC. And we're not here to talk about politics, but the purpose of their PAC is to help raise money for underprivileged kids in the Downriver area, which I think is quite a novel idea when you consider they're just juniors in high school.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's incredible. They're on the right track, that's for sure.
Yeah,
it takes a lot for somebody of that age to figure out all the loops and the hoops that you got to jump through to be able to do that. Absolutely.
So be on the lookout and read your little Grow Seal paper over there next year. Tyler Pardo's his name. He's an up-and-comer. He's the next generation of Bree Riley.
I don't know. I'm honored.
All right. For anyone that's listening or watching, you may leave questions on Facebook anytime. We will be monitoring questions and comments throughout the next hour, next 40 minutes, 45 minutes or so. If you have questions for Bree, if you're a parent, if you're a student, if you're a high school student, a college student, you have questions about how to go about preparing for your career, not only finding the right intern, the perfect internship for you, but how to get hired, how to demand that you get hired. That's what we're going to be talking about. I'll leave those questions on Facebook. So, where do you want to start, Bree? Yep.
I should probably tell my story starting in September of my freshman year of college. I can kind of give you a brief overview of what I'm involved in, what school's like, things like that, just so people can kind of get on the right track.
Mike's got his hand up.
Can we rewind it 1 year or 6 months?
Yeah, I'll breeze through freshman year, and then I'll get into sophomore year. And that's where the magic happened.
How about when you prepared yourself for that moment in high school?
For how I prepped myself in high school?
Yeah, you know what I'm talking about. What are you known for in Grow Seal?
Oh, man.
Bill will love this.
I graduated at the top of my high school class, and at the end, I had the privilege of speaking at graduation, and I took a selfie. I believe is what Mike is referring to capture that moment, remember it. I cherish that moment. It's truly true. It was awesome. I got one with the student body, and I got one with the staff and the administration, which was really cool too.
And that was in high school?
That was in high school. So that was that's where life kind of took off. I graduated. I graduated at the top of my class. I feel very fortunate for that. Had a lot of help getting there. Definitely, I think that'll be a recurring theme. Is I've had a lot of help. I spent that summer kind of diving into my story, teaching tennis, working at my mom's shop. I worked with Micah a little bit on her Facebook marketing and website building. And then I started at U of M. I started at U of M in the business program. I was a freshman. I received preferred admission to the Ross School of Business. So I started that. And I also jumped right into the Detroit Revitalization and Business Initiative. I worked on a consulting project on the east side of Detroit, specifically in Pingree Park and historic Indian Village. I did crime data research predominantly, and then I looked at some of the real estate stuff as well to see what new businesses can we bring to East Detroit. That was an incredible experience. But then kind of diving into my second semester, freshman year, really when life even more began to take off. I'm very heavily politically involved on campus with the United States-Israel relationship. I take it from a very bipartisan perspective. So I got involved with kind of building those relations. I went to a lobbying appointment and just learned about Israeli politics. Had the privilege last summer to visit Israel for 10 days. Hands down the best 10 days of my life, without a doubt. Deeply looking forward to going back in August, actually. For another 10 days.
That's cool.
And that wasn't, last I heard, that was not official, or you hadn't made a public announcement, or
I'm not going.
No.
This is actually the most public I've gone with it. To be quite blunt, I wasn't planning on making a public announcement, but it's something that's too big a part of who I am. and what I've been doing on campus and what I plan to do with part of my life at least. So yeah, I am going back to Israel. I fly out August 1st. I'll be there for 10 days. It's I virtually met my travel mates yesterday.
Okay.
And I've got a 35-way conference call with them tonight.
Oh, wow.
So, yeah.
So is it a lot of the same people or all the same? What is it?
It's actually all new people. It's a totally different organization. But I'm still involved with the first organization. So I'm involved with 3 different Israel orgs on campus, actually. So it's a very big part of my life. So that's one thing I'm involved in. I founded an Israel organization this past school year on campus. So I really try to take it from a bipartisan standpoint and also from an economical standpoint to like how can Michigan and Israel have a relationship economically. And then so that was under my freshman year. And then 2 weeks, this is kind of where my business career takes off. I Facebook messaged Mike and I said, you should hire me for summer 2016. And he wrote back, he's like, all right, let's have a phone call. Let's talk this out. And I was like, okay. So we had it's more or less kind of like a Skype chat, casual interview, I would say. And he's kind of asked me about my background and what I wanted. And I said, well, I want to work with you. I want to work in social media marketing. And this was when Facebook Live was starting to take off. Right. So I moved home on April 21st, began working April 22nd with Mike, or somewhere right around there, basically the day after. And, you know, when I look back on my freshman year with Detroit, Israel, and working with Mike being the 3 highlights, you know, the way I got those unbelievable opportunities, I was very vocal with what I wanted. And I had a lot of help. I mean, Mike didn't have to help me out with the job, but he did. Right. And I was forceful with that. I mean, I asked him, I was like, hey, you should hire me. And with everything that I started doing with Israel, I got involved with that because my friends knew I was interested. They pulled me aside one day, Super Bowl Sunday, when my friends pulled me aside and said, hey, you know, you should totally get involved with Israel on campus, and you can go there in June, in May/June for 10 days. And it was just one of those things where everything started to fall into place because I was being very vocal with what I wanted. Right. I wasn't necessarily asking. I asked Mike for a job, but I was just saying, hey, I find X cool, I find Y cool, or I want to learn more about it. And people started listening, and they were like, oh, you know what? Actually, I know something about that, or I know someone I can connect you with. So that was incredible. And then my sophomore year, in a nutshell, continue to work with Detroit Revitalization and Business. I'm currently VP of Operations. So I oversee marketing, finance, and a couple other departments. So I'm taking that over. I founded an Israel org this past year on campus. And then the last thing I'm involved in, I actually advise freshmen on how to make the most of their college experience. I had 6 freshmen in the business school this year who I worked with one-on-one individually. This upcoming year, my role is changing. I'll have 125 freshmen I'll be overseeing, and then 25 peer coaches who I'll be working with as well. So it's a lot more freshmen, a lot more peer coaches I'll be working with, helping them make the most of their time at Michigan.
So you've climbed that ladder. So you're the vice president of what? Operations?
I'm vice president of operations on the Detroit Revitalization and Business Initiative. Okay. Again, it was just one of those things where I made it really clear that I had worked really hard, and I made it clear that, you know what, it's time to take it to the next level. It's time for next steps. Yeah. And I was a little bit bold, and I applied, and I said, look, I've done this for a year. I was very involved for the year. Here's what I know. Here's what my plan is for the future. And the plan for the future doesn't have to be clear. Right. It's just saying, hey, I think this is really cool.
This is just the direction you want to go in, but you don't know if it'll actually happen.
Right. And I think the biggest thing is that one of the biggest myths about college is that you have to know what you want to do. And I don't. I have a more clear vision now. And I've got the internship I wanted this summer. I got the internship I wanted last summer. But, you know, it's one of those things, it's okay to not know exactly what you want to do. Just find what's interesting, find what's sustainable, you know, something that you can do for a living, but find interesting and go for it.
Right.
And just kind of follow that path as much as you can. Yeah.
Do you still have an interest in real estate? Because last year you were kind of dabbling around with the thought of entertaining real estate as a career. Do you still have that in mind?
No, not at all, actually.
Okay, so to your point.
But, it was one of those things. I looked at real estate data a little bit when I was working with Detroit on the Detroit Revitalization and Business Initiative my freshman year while working on a consulting project. And I realized, hey, you know what? I'm telling myself I like this. I don't like it. But, what I do love? Medicine.
Oh,
So
yeah?
I'm spread out all over the place, as you can tell, but that's okay. I've gotten some criticism for it, but at the end of the day, I wouldn't trade anything I have, just because it's just I'm spread out everywhere. I get to learn about Israel, then I get to go work with Detroit, and then I get to go work with 6 freshmen who I absolutely adore. I think because I am spread out so thin, if you will, I've been able to explore other areas and have been able to grow from it.
So in your future, is there a D and an R in front of your name, like doctor?
No, actually. I love school. I love learning. It's that's a lot of years. I know I picked a business degree, frankly. I knew I could graduate in 4 years. I knew I could start working right away. Because when you're 18, 17, you don't actually know what you want to do 99 out of 100 times. Like Mike said, I wanted to do real estate a year ago. Now I'm thinking international business combined with healthcare. And I'm feeling pretty excited about that. But it's two totally different things.
Right.
Real estate would have been an MBA, and now international business with healthcare would be a master's in public health or potentially a JD. Which I don't necessarily see that in the near future. My goal is to get out and to start working and truly figure out what I want to do, because you can kind of go anywhere with a business degree. So. Right.
When I was younger, I didn't have, I'm going to say, the mentors for reasons not to be discussed now, but I didn't have the people surrounding me to explain what life was all about. I thought school was one big continuous thing that you had to do to get to whatever your destination or goal was. And I hear people talking about you have to go in the workforce for a couple of years in order to get into a good graduate school. But I didn't listen. I didn't pay attention. I wish I had people back then. I wish I had someone beating me over the head, talking sense into me.
Yeah. It's like I said, I've been spread out and I've been exposed to a lot, and I have a lot to be grateful for. But at the end of the day, I really don't feel comfortable taking much credit for any of it, just because every time I've done something, there's at least 2 people I can point to, without a doubt. My Israel stuff, I can name off my friends who've helped me out there. With the Detroit stuff, I can name off the MBA students who are advising me right now. I could name off Mike for everything. I mean, I'm so incredibly grateful. I think the mentors, everyone likes the idea of like climbing up to the top by yourself and being independent and taking on the world and all this, but really you can't. You can't do it. I mean, I'm sorry, it's a big bad world, but with mentors, anything becomes possible if you can listen. And it's just one of those things where I can't tell you how many 1-hour phone calls I've had within the last year alone. Dozens on dozens. I kid, no exaggeration, dozens. Just trying to get as much advice as I can and taking notes and recording the phone calls if I'm allowed to, and just trying to get advice.
Right.
Because I learn more in those 1-hour phone calls, or those 30-minute phone calls, or sometimes for 20 minutes even, than I do in the classroom. Because in the classroom, they can teach you all the accounting, they can teach you the finance, but they don't teach you what the day-to-day looks like. They don't teach you about international business and healthcare existing as a thing. Because I didn't know that existed as a thing until I did a phone call this past September. So it's just one of those things where I think if I could leave anything tonight with anyone watching, anyone you share this with, is find mentors and take their advice. You don't have to, or take their advice if you feel like, take it if you wish, but get as much advice as you can, is what I should say. Get the opinions, get the backgrounds.
What things do you find that they don't, I mean, now that you're working on the outside also and taking class, what things do you find that they don't teach you that you learn in the real world?
People skills.
Okay.
It's how do you deal with an extremely awkward situation? It's, if you're writing an email saying, hey, to X company, hey, you know what, this isn't going to work out. This deal is not a good idea. And the company writes back, hey, that's, why not? I'm confused. It's the common thing I've been hearing. And it's just like you're in a horrible situation, but fortunately, I've had mentors who can say, you know what, this is how you handle it.
Okay.
Or this is how you not handle it. And I think it's, I know a lot of really, really smart people, but they've been limited in their paths and their career paths because they don't have the people skills necessary to go far. And really, when I look back on the interviews I had for last summer internships and this summer internships, I was never asked to do a math problem or a case study. I was never asked for anything logically thinking. It was just more like, okay, can this person have a conversation?
Mm-hmm.
And can she get things done? And I think if you can...
Real quick, I don't mean to interrupt. I just shared this post over to Born to Stream Live.
Yeah.
And you're still a member of that group. And I want to say thanks to Barb Tomlin for approving it quickly. But Barb did say hi a while back. She had asked about you. So she
Hi, Barb.
a pretty tight ship over there. And the fact that she approved this so quickly means she's interested.
Yes, thank you so much for approving my membership last year as well. I do remember that. It seems like yesterday.
But she runs a very tight ship, and she asks that people stay involved with the group. So you're probably right on the threshold of getting booted unless you go say hi.
Well, I hope you're doing well. Thank you so much again for approving our video.
So, hey, real quick, I just realized you two have something in common.
Who?
You two, Bill and Bree.
What is that?
You guys are master networkers.
Oh, networkers? Oh, gosh, I love networking.
I'm the guy that likes to hold up, I go places and I'll hold up the wall and I'll observe, and I'm not much of a mingler, for lack of a better word. But you two are very, very good at that. So, collectively, question for you guys. What recommendations do you have for networking? Say you go to an event where there's 100 people and you only know a handful. You only know a couple. How do you go about meeting new people, making connections, introducing yourself? How do you go about networking in your two respective environments? You guys do it for two different reasons, but you're both very skilled at it.
Sure. And I would think that it would be applicable in just about any environment. But Bree, do you want to go ahead? You want to go first?
Yeah, I'd love to. So I will say what I've done in these networking events has got me my internship for this summer. I didn't do a career fair. I didn't recruit or apply online for jobs in the normal way. I went to a networking event, I asked for a job, and I got it eventually. So what I would say for college kids, two big pieces of advice. One, have a professional, clean, simple business card. Most college kids don't. Have like your name, your cell, your college email, what you're studying, the school's logo, just something really basic. It's a clean, classic look. That's number one, because when you can whip that out, people are like, oh, like, wow, this kid actually has everything together. They have a business card. And I got mine through U of M for like $10.
Okay. For
like hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of them. Number two, have no shame, and be bold. I got my job this summer because I walked up to someone and I said, you know what, you should hire me. Summer 2017. Gave them a little bit of an elevator pitch, and they were like, no, like, we're not necessarily interested in interns. And, at that point, I literally had no shame. I said, please just talk about it. And it probably came off as a little bit desperate, but I got a 15-minute phone call out of it. And that led to another meeting, and that led to another meeting. And it worked out in the long run.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm eternally grateful. But I think it's just, like, really being bold and really putting yourself out there. Like, make the phone call, get into the networking event. And when you're there, hand out your business card. Make a goal, hand out every single business card, and make those conversations worth it. Just don't hand out a card to hand out a card. Have a call to action. Go up, introduce yourself, give a 10-second elevator pitch. And it's really simple. You rehearse it on the drive out to the networking event or the train ride or however you get there. But those are my two big things. Have no shame, be bold, and have a business card.
Right. And not be afraid.
Right.
Yeah, it's just not being afraid because, people don't mind sparing 15 minutes, 20 minutes, an hour. I've talked to executives on all different levels. I've talked to executive officers of various health systems throughout Michigan in the last year, and they're so happy to take 20 minutes or 30 minutes to explain what they do. And these people are on, like, tight schedules, but, hey, 30 minutes to explain to a kid, like, what my job is, like, they're more than happy to do it, and they're so patient, and they're willing to answer all my questions. And they're a lifelong connection now. It's awesome.
Right. So, Bill, how do you work a room?
Well, when I do what she's saying, I bring in, make sure you have a whole pocket full of business cards. And I've got what I do is I put the business cards I'm going to pass out in my left pocket, and the business cards I receive go in my right pocket. All right. So that way I'm not passing out the business cards I received by accident. Make sure you don't have business cards with notes written on the back of them that you pass out,
Yeah.
And you can always stick a little pad of sticky notes in your pocket, and take a pen. Also, make sure you have a pen in case there's information that people could want to give you, because a lot of times they don't have a card with them, or if they've passed them, that's one thing. So when you walk into the room, walk in there like you own the place. Okay, so that's the big thing. And what's that? You want to walk in and you want to be big. Okay, you want to take up a lot of real estate. Yeah, right. When you sit down, spread out. It's the way you stand. It's the air of confidence. I mean, when you talk to people, look them in the eyes, shake your hand firmly. Stuff like that.
It's
or pat them on the shoulder in the back. When you walk up to them. If it's somebody if they don't see you, go and pat them on the back. And then also you need an exit plan. So how there's some people that you can talk to, but you might get stuck talking to them for a half an hour, and you want to work the room. So you say, well, let me get back to you. I have to talk to some people over here. Okay, so you're still being cordial. You're being nice. You're getting the information. And as Mike always says, you have to have the closer. So you want to get that information, and then when you get back, always follow up. Okay, so if you get emails, send out a little thank you, right? Because nobody sends out thank yous anymore. So it's a big deal.
Right.
I want to go off that point. When I do these half-an-hour phone calls, within 24 hours, I like to do it the next morning. They can grab their first cup of coffee, go check their email, and hey, Bree Riley has sent you a message.
Right.
Just saying, I usually use the subject line like thank you and next steps. So you're not just saying thank you, you're saying thank you and hey, like let's keep this connection going. Hey, like make sure you talk to your supervisor so I can get that job this summer. Type thing.
Yeah. But one of the big things now is with Messenger, that's really freed up a lot, because I use Messenger a lot like I would normally use texting on the phone. Because a lot of times you have to clarify with someone. If they just give you a phone number, ask them if that's office, home, or cell. Okay, because if it's an office or home, then you're not going to be able to text to that number. Right. So, or if they're on Facebook, ask them if they're on Facebook, or send them a friend request, or get them on Messenger. A lot of people, what they'll do is they'll whip out their phone right away and say, "What's your number? Here, let me call you." Okay, now you got my number. Put me in your address book. It's just that fast,
Yeah, I would. Sorry, I hate to interrupt, but I would recommend for my generation, try to use LinkedIn. If you have to use LinkedIn Messenger, everyone, I've been told to use email as much as I can. I use LinkedIn when I have to, though. LinkedIn Messenger is really nice. It's very sleek. There's not any read receipts, there are read receipts. I believe you can have them on or off, but I try to keep mine off. But yeah, just kind of throwing that out there as well.
I was just going to ask that question. Coming up through the ranks of corporate America and trading time for money before we were business owners, I would think that Facebook Messenger is less acceptable in an environment where you're a corporate environment, so to speak. Yeah,
so I would say with my political work I do with Israel, I use Facebook and GroupMe all the time.
Okay.
That's how we communicate, is Facebook and GroupMe. And it's not to say that political is less professional than corporate, because I'd argue probably the opposite. You probably don't want to make an idiot of yourself. For the most part. But in corporate America, it's email. Without a doubt. It's because the people who are running corporate America right now are people in their 40s, 50s, and 60s who are used to email.
Right.
And, it's just one of those things where it's like, Mike was on Facebook when he was my boss last summer, but right now, like my supervisors aren't on Facebook from because they told me. I should clarify, not because I've looked.
Right.
Because I haven't. And I'm not interested in doing so necessarily, but
I should clarify, because it depends on who the person is that you're dealing with. Some people are comfortable using Facebook, but if it's in a certain business, there's certain business people that I deal with, and we deal on LinkedIn. And I have people some people want to be my LinkedIn friend, but there's a certain genre of people that I use LinkedIn for.
Yeah, I think that's definitely true. And it is LinkedIn. The tricky thing with it is that you'll get a lot of people who you don't necessarily know trying to connect with you. And personally, I'm not super comfortable connecting with people I don't know.
Right.
Especially since I get a lot of banks right now, and I'm not interested in banking. So I don't necessarily want my profile to be all investment banking because that can be misleading to potential employers. Like, hey, why is Bree's LinkedIn all banking versus healthcare?
One thing I do like about LinkedIn is that they have a lot of little articles on there, and I will make comments or I'll contact the author about those articles.
Yeah, it's great.
You can call through them if you're following somewhere, someone or some group.
So rising college students, I would highly recommend getting LinkedIn. I would get it like as soon as you graduate high school and just start putting everything and anything you can on there. Build up that personal brand you have.
Right.
So what about...
You're selling yourself. Remember, you're selling yourself.
Yep.
What about video resumes? Do you recommend those, Bree? And don't?
Depends on the industry. I personally wouldn't do a video resume right now. I had a good friend do one for BuzzFeed, and he got the job offer, and he's absolutely incredible. And I think for something like that, it's totally fine. Like, it has to be fine. But it's again the people who. If you're in corporate America, the people running it right now are 40 to 65, roughly, let's say. They're old school. They prefer a paper resume. And I take them with me. When I go to networking events, 99 out of 100 times, I don't hand out a resume. It's just we're told not to, and it's not really – it's kind of bulky to hand out a resume, but I have them there. Video resumes can be awesome. And I can see the use for them, but I personally don't have one. I don't necessarily see that changing for the near future, maybe this fall.
So you would say it depends on who the person is you're contacting?
Yeah, I would say, I mean, if you're going to apply to, go to Google, so they're corporate America, I would say go for it. Google's very modern, up-to-date. Twitter is in the same boat. Facebook, I think those types of companies where it's like, potentially younger leadership looking at your application, more modern companies, then definitely I would say go for it. But if you're going for classic old school corporate America, like your classic banking, I would recommend the paper resume until they catch up, frankly.
Yeah, like I deal with General Dynamics, and you would not send them a video resume. Right.
Definitely. Yeah. It's I've knew someone who works there, and I would do a paper resume. It's just, I think 5 to 10 years from now, it could be a lot different.
Right.
But the other thing is, when a recruiter comes to campus, for instance, if you're in college, you hand them a paper resume, they'll spend an average of 6 seconds looking at it.
Okay.
So it's not much time at all. And when I've gone to interviews, they glance at my resume, they pick out 3 highlights, and they're like, okay, usually the top 3 are you're valedictorian for high school class. I have 1 bullet point from high school, and that's what it is. It gets brought up every interview I've ever had it's come up, which I think is really interesting because it's high school, and usually you're supposed to take off your high school stuff when you go to college. But they'll point out like that, maybe my Detroit work, and then my internship last summer. I always get asked about working with Mike. But yeah, it's because it's a lot faster to go through a 6-second paper resume than it would be to watch an entire video. Although then the video might show your personality better. So
there's a new sourcing service. When I say service, like a software as a service website service. There's a new sourcing service available for recruiters and HR professionals that once a hiring manager has collected a series of resumes, they can stage a series of questions, either written or via video. And then they send out these links after they screen the candidates, and they may pick the top dozen, they send out a link to this application, for lack of a better word, an application I'm going to call it. And the kids are using technology, are asked to give their responses in a video. So on their phone. So have you heard of this?
I have, and I think it is good from the standpoint where it's you get to show off your personality. Because like I mentioned earlier, people skills are probably the most important asset you have when going for a job. I think a video like lets you show off the fact that you have personality, because like you can give someone that paper resume, but you might not have any personality. You can't tell. But the video responses are great. I know they stress a lot of people out because sometimes like they won't let you re-record. And if you make a mistake, it's game over. So it's very stressful, but I think in that regard, it makes it good. Just because it's like, okay, how do you work under pressure?
Absolutely.
How do you work on video? It's my freshman year, we had to watch a video of ourselves doing an interview question, and I actually sacrificed the participation points of watching the video because I like refused to watch myself.
Mm-hmm.
And it was a foolish decision, obviously.
Mhm.
But it's one of those things where it's such an important skill. I think that the video resumes, video interviewing, video recordings for an application are becoming more and more relevant.
Mm-hmm.
I think those are skills you have to build. I just don't know how big it is right now across the board.
I think
But definitely be on the lookout for it.
yeah, the people that I've read the articles from, I'll say it's more of a beta/testing phase.
Okay.
Mhm.
And some of the more advanced sourcing companies and sourcing the recruiters, sourcing professionals are using it. I think it's pretty fascinating. I would certainly use it to hire people, and I would welcome the opportunity to go in front of a camera and answer questions.
Yeah, I think it's definitely a great resource.
Next topic, off the cuff. Here we go. Here, I'd like to frame the question accordingly, and we can go in any direction you want. But I'd like to talk about adding value. The concept of getting a paycheck versus adding value and being compensated for that value. And we touched upon this last year quite a bit, Bree. And here's one thing. I'll start it like this. So last year, Bree's claim to fame with us was she helped write the white paper that we distribute a couple times a week when we get a new lead, someone interested either in our service or just interested in technology. We send them the white paper. I've also since learned to make sure I put in fine print, please, if you don't understand this, forward to someone in your organization that does. Put it in the hands of a marketer. You don't want, the president, or you want the right person reading the document. But back to the statement or question or the conversation about value is last year, the value that we got from Bree and she was compensated for is we're still getting a return on that value that Bree contributed last year. And I remember early in the summer when we had the conversation when Bree said, a lot of my friends are doing data entry or not fun work.
Yeah.
And when I heard you say that, it kind of like the implicit message was, I want to learn something, I want to add value, and I want to build my resume. So that for me, those were the three things that we tried to work together with. So can you talk about adding value to an organization as a undergraduate student, a young undergraduate student, and you get that first internship or opportunity to prove your worth? How do you add value?
Well, I will start. Adding value gets you the return offer. It gets you the full-time offer. So it's really important. It's just adding value. It's about, you have to be hungry to learn is the term. I had a mentor who taught me that term my first semester freshman year. And it's just, you're the yes man, if you will. Yes, I'd love to do this. Yes, I'd love to do this. And your first month, it might be data entry. Like, that's okay. But, as time goes on, as you keep taking on more and more, your supervisors are going to see that. And they're going to say, hey, you know what? Why don't you join me on this conference call? Or why don't you join me on this call? And then, then you follow up with, well, hey, what can I do? After the call, is there anything I can do? What next steps need to be taken? It's to add value, it's really just like, one, being hungry to learn and being open about that. 2, being the yes man. And 3, just looking for those next steps. What can we do next? If we're forming partnerships with companies and we have the initial phone call, what are next steps to form that partnership? Am I sending a thank you email? Am I talking to my boss about the opportunity? It's one of those are the 3 main parts I'd say to adding value, though. And really being one of the biggest assets you can have, other than having people skills kind of going into it, be enthusiastic. There is not enough enthusiasm in corporate America. I know you have to be professional, but at the same time, if you come in with a smile on your face and you're ready to work and you're ready to take on the world, it's going to be contagious and people pick up on it. It's most interns don't have that. And that's why most interns fail to add value. That's why they're doing data entry for 4 months instead of 1 month.
Right.
It sounds silly, but trust me, it works every time.
So what about, when do you reach that point? You were talking about being the yes man or yes woman. You gather experience with whatever it is you're working on. And when do you reach that point when you can start to challenge the thought process in a work environment where you can start suggesting alternative solutions, or better yet, challenging the ideas of others? Hey, I love you. As an example, hey, that's a great idea, but what if we tried this instead? Would we get more value, or would it be more productive? When do you reach that point where you're challenging ideas?
I started challenging ideas early this summer in my internship, probably second or third week. Mike, I'm struggling to remember when we kind of hit that phase. But, it's one of those things I mentioned a little while ago about having no shame and being bold. Right. Have no shame, be bold. Like, give that opinion. And you might be wrong. Your boss might be like, hey, this is why you're wrong. 6 reasons why. But at least you tried. And you're showing enthusiasm in doing that. And you're saying, you know what, this is like, here's what I think. And it's one of those things where I gave my opinion right away. I had an opportunity to early on because we were working with social media at the start of my internship. I was like, oh my gosh, I know how this works. Like, and no one else did. And I was like, here's my opinion. Here's why. And they were like, oh, okay. Like, they kind of understood what I was saying, but like, they don't work with Facebook marketing. So it's struggling, but they could see I was excited about it. And they commented on there like, wow, you're really jazzed about this. I was like, yeah, I spent 4 months working in it a year ago. I worked on it with my mom. I want to bring every asset that I have to you.
Tell me, do you run into a opposition of egos?
Yeah, all the time.
I remember when I was young, I came in and I had some ideas, and wham, I got big hammer down, because of the ego issue. And somebody took me aside and said, that's because so-and-so didn't come up with that idea you just brought up. Yeah,
and I think that's definitely an issue. And it's from what I've seen and I've experienced just across the board all around is that it's much more quiet than like, hey, flat out, you're wrong. Like sometimes they'll be like, hey, flat out, like I don't agree with that. And it's because they didn't come up with it. Right. And 2 weeks later, they're like, hey, we changed our mind. But that definitely does happen. There's a clash of egos all the time, especially, working in healthcare. I haven't seen it as much. I have to say I have a really awesome work culture, but it's doctors versus business administrators. Right. Doctors are saying, we need X, Y, and Z, more funding and research and patient care supplies and things like that. And the administrators are saying, no, we need to reconsolidate everything and, manage our operations and flow of patients and flow of goods and supplies. So it's like the two different egos saying doctors want to innovate, business people want to make money.
Okay, right. For business to make money, I mean.
Yeah, but it's sometimes in business you're also investing in research.
True.
And you invest $1 billion and hey, like the product fails. Across any board. And people do invest $1 billion and it does fail. But it's like, where's that line between like making money and trying to be the next great big thing? Right. And in the business world, I think that's even like business and engineering, business and medicine, business and Frito-Lay. They're creating the new chip flavor and it tanks. But they spent how many millions of dollars doing marketing for it and everything. Yeah,
remember when New Coke came out? Remember the old Coke, and they came out with New Coke, and it bombed.
Right, and it's just I think that's like a combination of clash of egos, right there. I mean, I'm sure they could have been successful. I think, in my professional opinion, there's always a way to be successful. It's just a matter of how can we work together? How do we not let egos clash? Things like that. There's always a way out.
I'm rewinding the clock quite a few years, we'll say 20, 25 years, but going back I went through a similar process as you. Looking back, when given an option and I went through the interview process for working during the summer, I chose the environments that I felt comfortable with. And I think part of my decision was based upon, I feel comfortable solving problems and recommending solutions. And
Yeah.
And I think part of the, getting in an environment where you can add value is making sure you're comfortable before you put yourself in that environment.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think it's one of those things too. That when you have your boss, I think as an intern, one of the most important things you need to do is kind of try to build a relationship, like a mentor mentee relationship, rather than a boss intern relationship.
Mm-hmm.
I think again, Mike and I are a really good example of that. I would ask him advice on like life or on like just like on business stuff, and it was just one of those things. You build a little bit more of a professional, a little bit more of a personal relationship while still being professional.
Right.
But if you can establish that mentee-mentor relationship, kind of like with what I'm doing on campus with the 6 freshmen I work with, that's when you can really start to add value. Like, hey, like, can you give me a thought, like, what this opinion is for me?
Mm-hmm.
And then you avoid the clash of egos. You got the egotistical intern who goes to X school and is, receiving an awesome education versus the boss who's been in there for 30 years.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Building up that mentee-mentor relationship, I think, is really important to adding value, just because if you feel like you're appreciated, then you're going to be willing to speak up more. And that's what I found. I feel appreciated, so I'm going to share my ideas more, even if they're wrong. So
yeah. I as you were speaking, Bill and I are older, obviously, but we have had the opportunity to be around some very, very talented young people, and the young people, we'll call you guys millennials. I know you hate that, but the millennials we've been around, and I'll just throw a couple names out there. Kevin Hatulian. I don't know him personally, but you know him, and I've corresponded with him. Michael Sullivan out of the state.
Right.
The young guy Tyler Pardo at Groseal, Isaiah Beauchamp. You guys are truly the next generation of leaders across the board: business owners, nonprofits, politics, policy. You guys are the next generation of leadership, and it's kind of a privilege from sitting back here to know you guys. I mean, would you agree with that, Bill?
Yeah, and I agree with what Bree was saying about mentoring.
Mm-hmm.
Because I mean, there's certain people that I talk to, because I've mentored companies on how to get into government contracting, and I'm more than happy to help them not make the same mistakes I made. Start fresh. Don't do this, don't do that, or do this and do that. So it does make a big difference.
And I do want to wrap back to a point I made earlier. When you're trying to network, you're trying to ask for jobs and stuff like that. If you have a phone interview, or if you have a regular interview, or you have a meet and greet, if you will, try to build that mentee-mentor relationship there too.
Mm-hmm.
It's one of those things where it's do it professionally, but at the end they'll say, hey, do you have any questions for me? Pick out the right questions where you can be slightly personal, but kind of get their opinion.
Mm-hmm.
And really kind of build that mentee-mentor relationship. People love giving advice.
Right.
And if you can kind of build that a little bit more intimate relationship, if you will, with someone who is interviewing you, and kind of build that personal connection, your resume is going to get passed on to the next round.
Mm-hmm.
It's that simple.
Because you have interest.
I'm a staunch defender of millennials. There's a lot of people that badmouth and talk negatively about millennials, and my response is, hey, you're dealing with the wrong millennials. Because as a group of people, the knowledge and experience that generations have passed down to millennials is incredible. And you guys are truly empowered as the next generation with some serious knowledge.
Thanks. It's appreciated. I think the biggest issue with my generation is that we're all power hungry. We've got a lot of us have taken advantage of being mentored. We have this knowledge, okay, and we see people like Mark Zuckerberg, and we're like, that's what I want to be when I grow up.
Okay.
And it's like they want to be the self-made millionaire, and it's awesome. But I think it turns into an obsession. I think that's where millennials can go wrong. Is kind of trying to be too independent, taking a little bit of mentorship and then trying to go off on their own. But I think if you stick by your mentors, ask for help, be vocal, you'll get to where you want to go.
Sure.
So let's pull out the crystal ball. I just thought of a fun question. You brought up Mark Zuckerberg. So if you rewind the clock 12, 14, 15 years, there was no Facebook.
Right.
Obviously, Mark Zuckerberg's a household name. where is that one area? What's that one industry? What's the one technology that you think millennials are working on right now where the next Mark Zuckerberg's going to appear? What is it? What technology or what is it, Bree? Tell us.
It's not social media that's been done. It's probably going to be something, I mean, I'm biased, but probably something like related to diet and health, healthcare. I could see like the magic fitness pill, like get really buff legally and be like, honestly, because that's one of the my generation, we're very into fitness and vanity and things like that. So I think it's going to be that. Or I'm kind of starting to see it with like really cheap airfare. My generation loves traveling.
Okay.
Like we're obsessed with it. I mean, I log in my Instagram and I'm in Italy, I'm in London, I'm in China, I'm in Australia, and it's like, you know, and that's the big thing. So I think I can see that being one of the two big things. Because our food's been kind of done. Social media got destroyed by Mark Zuckerberg, quite frankly. But I can see like a really big diet health trend coming out, or a really big something, like a really breakthrough thing in travel. Just because health and travel are the two big things for millennials.
What's in your crystal ball, Bill?
AI.
Okay, I was going AR.
Really?
Yeah,
I mean, AI is an artificial intelligence, you know.
I think it's big, and I don't think it's going to come from millennials. I think it's going to be before we can get up to corporate America and we can get up high enough.
Yeah.
I mean, I think there's probably going to be a big breakthrough within the next 5 years. And I think it's going to be by...
AI sort of scares me in some ways because it could become uncontrolled.
Yeah, I think it's going to...
Yeah.
I think AI is just going to beat the millennials just by a little bit. I think we'll be potentially in corporate America, but we're not going to be the people innovating it.
Okay.
I mean, there could be one young gun that really comes out and blows everyone away, but it's already kind of present, especially with like you look at cars and stuff like that. The automotive industry is a really good example.
That's it's just starting out now. It's just sort of in its infancy, and you know, like like you mentioned, I hear people say headless cars, right? So I've been talking to attorneys on the legal side. Is what if these headless cars get in a car accident? Who is at fault? Okay.
Who's at fault? Yeah.
You know, and no one can come up with an answer. So, and then some people are like, well, we have to depend on GPS, but then it's like, how many times have GPS sent you like in the wrong place, you know? So
or down a one-way road the wrong way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, I mean, don't just follow your GPS blindly. You must still use your head. You know?
Yeah. I mean, like I said, I do agree that AI is going to get really big in AR. I definitely agree with that.
I can make a strong case for AR for a lot of reasons. Number one is some studies that Bill and I did for someone. And I think AR is a logical intermediate between where we're at today and AI tomorrow.
Mike, what is AR?
Augmented reality.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So, you know,
like virtual reality?
Yeah, well, VR is just entertainment. I mean, no one's going to be able to do any work using VR. It's just strictly, I'm going to totally immerse myself in a gaming experience or a movie or something totally fictional.
So Star Trek wise, we're going to go to the holodeck and we're going to be able to just pretend we are actually there.
Correct. In the AI world, some of the case studies that Bill and I have come across, and you might find this fascinating, Bree, is and we're going to use the example medicine, but more importantly, like petroleum, an offshore rig right now. They equip their technicians with augmented reality glasses, so they can the engineer back at corporate headquarters, and they can stream through the side of the glasses, the SOPs or the procedures for fixing that valve to make sure that we don't pollute the environment with petroleum, whatever it is. There were other case studies. I'll send it over to you. You might find it fascinating.
Yeah, thank you.
Some medicinal, typically in the lab, clinicals and labs are some cases. Yeah. Have you come across that during your work? Any AR?
Yeah. I can't say much. I work with Prototype Medical Technology.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of legal documents I look at the same time. But yeah, I really think AI, it's one of those things, I think it's going to be here and going within the next 5 to 10 years. For sure 10 years, I think it's going to be out there very publicly. But yeah, it's definitely it's everywhere in medicine. Just because you look at a high risk procedure, for instance, and it's like, if you move that knife over just a little bit, oh, you hit an artery, person's gone, right?
No, I could see AR, especially in a teaching environment, where you have someone who is a professor working on something, a doctor working on something, and everyone else has their glasses on and basically are there also and see exactly what you're doing.
And there's some of that going on, even outside of my department, publicly. There's definitely stuff out there, and there's all sorts of labs and simulations and things like that.
Right.
Henry Ford Health System has the second biggest simulation lab in the country, actually, in their health system, where they simulate various procedures, things like that, for education purposes.
Okay.
And it's really cool. Yeah, it's really
You
cool.
could have just said, "Shut up, Mike. Let me tell you all about what I know." No, see, I was very curious to know if you had come across that either in reading or work or school or whatever.
I haven't worked too extensively with it, so it's one of those things where it's like even if I knew stuff, I couldn't say much. But even then, I don't really know a whole lot. It's just from what I've seen at work and seeing throughout the hospital and things like that.
You know what we should do? We should have a lunch. We should meet for lunch and take this conversation to lunch off the record. Because Bill and I have been privy to some pretty cool stuff. Some of it's sensitive, so much like
I'm still not saying I still can't break my contracts.
Absolutely, totally understand.
I'm just clarifying for the internet.
Right.
But I would definitely be interested in learning more about what you guys have been reading about and stuff like that.
It's amazing. The problem-solving capabilities of it.
It's crazy. Yeah.
I mean, one of the things that's coming in now, and we really haven't seen it instituted yet, is 5G technology and cellular networks.
Yeah.
And I've been doing a lot of studying on that, and that's something we're going to have micro cells, where they have to set up towers. They'll be at the top of a telephone pole. Actually, they're not going to put a tower up, and they'll be a lot closer together, but the speeds are phenomenal. We're not even touching it right now.
How far out is
very,
that?
very limited locations right now.
Give us best guess. When is 5G going to become commonplace?
Well, it just depends on the approval from the FCC and then the build out, of course, because the phone companies are the ones who do that build out. So right now, it's pretty much around their own corporate headquarters. That's where they have it right now.
Okay. But
it will start popping up. And of course, it's going to be in more populated areas first, because that's where more money's coming from. And then it'll filter out. Because, I travel a lot on the road, and I still will run into a 3G and lower, network. I'll really get into the sticks, or we go into areas where there is no cellular connectivity still, which is hard to believe.
Yeah.
But
I had someone call me today and ask if they should get a 4K camera for streaming. The new Logitech.
Yeah.
And I said, no, that's like having a Lamborghini in Manhattan. Like, where are you going to drive it? Like, there's no practical use for it for live streaming, at least live streaming right now. So that's why I asked that question.
Well, I'm just using my iPhone.
Right.
I've done a little bit of traveling since going to college. My friends have all the expensive cameras out. Let's capture these mountains. I'm out there with an iPhone. Click, posting on Facebook. I might throw a filter on there. Make it a little pretty. But there's not much I'm doing to those photos.
Right.
And everyone's, oh my gosh, what kind of camera are you using? My iPhone 6S.
Yeah, the iPhone, the one camera on the iPhone, I believe, is a 12 megapixel camera. It's that's a pretty good camera.
Yeah, I think it works well for live streaming, and Samsung's got an even better camera. But using what your phone offers for like 99 of 100 times,
right?
Perfect.
But the more you get, like Mike mentioned, 4K or 4X, it's going to use a lot more bandwidth.
Yeah, and that's,
file sizes are going to be much huger. Transfer rates are going to be much larger, and the cellular networks understand that, and they're trying to come up with these different plans. But believe me, they're going to zing it to you, into different areas.
Yeah, definitely.
All right, it's 7:58, and the last crystal ball question is, what are you going to do next year, Bree?
It's a great question.
Nothing much.
What's your long range plan?
No, it's a really fair question. I've been looking around, had a few phone calls, had a few offers coming in, things like that. I'll intern next summer. Lord willing, I can travel. That's my goal in college. Just take advantage. These colleges offer a lot of travel opportunities. A lot of times they'll pay for most of it, if not all of it, as well.
Right.
So kind of doing what I've been doing, looking at what I'm interested in, just kind of going down that path. I'm not, like I said, I'm not sure though what that is yet, and that's okay. Like I said, everyone expects you to know what you want to do, but as long as you take your interest, you explore them as far as you can, you seek out mentors, it'll become clear. But definitely a business internship. I'm very open-minded as to where in the country or world I am. And same with traveling. Like I said, if traveling doesn't work out, that's fine. But I'd like to do a little bit of traveling as well.
Very cool.
So yeah, sorry I don't have a better answer for you. I'll have a decision made by the end of December.
We want to be the first to know.
Oh, you will be. I'll send you a Facebook message.
All right.
Okay.
Hey,
that sound good?
Somehow we lost audio.
On my part?
Yeah, we just got a note that said that they can't. Leland said he can't hear our audio. So I don't know if it's on Mike's end or every now and then we run into this bandwidth.
It was working up to about 5 or 10 minutes ago.
Okay.
Something happened. I did not minimize the screen, so that's not the problem. But it's probably something on the back end here. But luckily, we remembered to record this. So I have an HD version that I'm going to download and upload to YouTube, and I'll share that with you guys.
Right.
And Bree, you're welcome to share it with anyone you want to share it with.
Definitely, we'll do.
And all the audio will be there.
If you want it edited, get any clips out of here that you feel are super powerful, like for the kids that you're going to be mentoring this year. If there's any pieces of this video you want me to edit, let me know. I'll certainly do that for you.
We'll do. Yeah, I think I've got a lot of them this year, and not enough time to get to all 125 of them. So,
cool.
Yeah.
It's 8:01, and I guess that's it. So I want to say thank you for joining us.
Yeah, hopefully I added some value, as Mike would say.
Oh, sure.
Bill, always a pleasure to talk with you as well.
Yeah, and then when you travel, too, if you've got a good bandwidth area, let's do a show from a remote location, Yeah,
I'll do the best I can. I've had tech difficulties the last few times I've gone out and traveled, but hopefully I can definitely connect with you guys one way or another.
Mike had he had a big difficulty when he was coming back from Florida and he was working out of a motel.
Well, that geographic distance adds a challenge. It really does.
Yeah.
But yeah, thank you guys again so much for having me.
All right. And then we're in Florida for 2 weeks, but we get back, we'll get together.
Sounds good. All right. We'll be in touch.
All right.
Yep.
All right. Take care, and we'll talk to everybody else on the flip side.
Okay. I'm hitting the stop streaming. Facebook's done. All right. Wow. We had like 15 viewers when we lost audio.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah, Facebook's done.
I don't know what happened.
I don't know.
Not sure. Sorry.
Almost 1,000 viewers.
Oh wow, that's awesome.
Yeah. So you're more popular than our last one, and we did a funny one last time. And I know you got to go here in a second, but what we did.
I've got till 8:30. I'm good.
We had the green screen, and what we did is that our conversation was about the Weather Underground. Are you familiar with the Weather Underground?
I've heard of it.
And I think I mentioned it to you, the SDS and the Weather Underground.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Crazy liberal kids back in the 70s, and they did some bad things, and they got in trouble with the law.
They weren't getting attention, so they did things. They did bad things.
Bad things. On the green screen behind us, we had FBI's Most Wanted, and on there was the Weather Underground. And I think somehow Facebook does some kind of they have some kind of recognition software that says that's a fake background. And we had 0 viewers for the first half hour. And the minute we turned off that FBI Most Wanted behind us, like a bunch of people showed up.
Oh, that's super funny.
Yeah. The point being is you're more popular than the Weather Underground.
You never know what Facebook's doing,
Yeah, they've always got something going on.